welcome to the It's in Queens podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons. This is the only podcast that celebrates and showcases all that Queens has to offer. Did you like that opening music? A bit of a change, huh? I certainly did. That was the Queens Symphony Orchestra, and I encourage you to look them up on YouTube to see this beautiful arrangement, which they did virtually from all different locations last April. Currently in its 63rd season, Queens Symphony Orchestra is the borough's only professional orchestra and the oldest and largest professional arts organization in Queens. And if you've not yet seen them in person, you now have that opportunity once again. But more on that in just a moment. I admit, I am not anywhere near an expert on classical music. Far from it. But classical music is often the soundtrack of my days, especially when I take long walks. It always fills me with different emotions. It sets my pace and even resets my mind. When I'm struggling to write or when I just want to listen to something beautiful, that is where I head to. I remember reading an article about how the melodies can bring us to tears. Music, like art, can have very profound effects on our emotions. And classical music, in fact, is often used to teach emotions to young kids so they can understand their feelings. Music is a language that crosses boundaries, something we all can enjoy. So this week, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to Deborah Surdi, the organization's executive director, and its music director, Martin Majkut, who are bringing you the best in classical concerts from right here in Queens. Deborah Surdi and Martin Majkut, welcome to the It's in Queens podcast. I want to start off by finding more about both of you. So Deborah, let's start. Who is Deborah Surdi?
Well, who am I? Actually, I am the executive director of the Queens Symphony Orchestra. I spent the bulk of my career as an executive in the classical recording industry, working for both RCA Records and Sony Music, RCA Red Seal. My last position there was Vice President of Artists and Repertoire. And for the last 10 years, I've been running a number of different performing arts organizations, including the Opera Orchestra of New York, where we presented many concerts, opera in concert at Carnegie Hall.
And Martin, your career?
I am a conductor. I am the music director of the Queens Symphony Orchestra. I also am a music director with Rogue Valley Symphony in Oregon. And I originally studied conducting in my home country of Slovakia, and then came here, and I don't know, the rest is history. Yeah.
I'd love for both of you to just take me back a bit and each of you to tell me, start with you, Martin, how you got involved with Queen Symphony Orchestra. What was appealing to you about it?
So I established myself on the West Coast, and I'm always looking for a new and a very different kind of opportunity. And this, I saw this opening and I thought, well, this is perfect, because I already am in this quaint, beautiful tourist town in Southern Oregon. Now I can go to a big city and face a very different kind of situation. And fortunately, the search committee picked me. So that was, I don't even know, 5 or 6 years ago. And it's been a very happy ride since then. And it makes me feel like I live 2 lives at the same time, which is wonderful.
And Deborah?
I was working for the Opera Orchestra of New York, and I mainly got involved because being in the business, you know different people, and the Queen's Symphony Orchestra was looking for a new executive director, someone who could help bring it a bit back to normalcy. They were having some financial difficulties, and I was working with the contractor for Opera Orchestra of New York, and also Kenichi Wilson, who is not only runs Wilson's Showtime, but was also on the board of the Queen's Symphony. And I was brought in when they had a search, and that's how I got involved. And it's been one of the most fulfilling jobs I've had because of the way we serve the community.
May I just add, Jeff, that it really helps when you get along, the executive and the music director, if you like each other, then the sky's the limit. It's just been a beautiful,
a great
beautiful,
relationship.
Beautiful relationship, and we're excited to work together and come up with all these new plans and things. So yeah.
And trust me, I know situations where the top executive and the artistic or music director do not get along, but we're not going to go into them today. Deborah, talk.
Much more difficult to be successful, and much less enjoyable. You know?
Right.
I think that's the key.
Deborah,
we really enjoy what we do.
Talk about the orchestra's history, because I'd love people to know a little about when it was founded, because you're not a new organization.
Not by any stretch of the imagination. No, the orchestra was founded in 1953, which means that the organization is now 68 years old. It was founded by David Katz, who is our former borough president's father, Melinda Katz's father. And
the current district attorney.
The current district attorney. And he really brought that organization up in the concert world. They were featuring some of the most famous soloists and musicians of the day. And the orchestra, I have to say, it's pretty amazing that the orchestra is still around, because other organizations like it, like the Brooklyn Phil, are no longer in existence. And here we are 68 years later, still presenting concerts in a little bit of a different format now, because all of our, I don't know if you know, but all of our concerts are free to the public, which is something that is so wonderful, because it gives people a chance who may never have had the opportunity to hear live music like this, to get to hear, wonderful orchestral concerts.
Yeah, the Queens Symphony has deep roots in Queens, and we perform at many different places because we try to go to the communities in Queens and play music that's relevant to that community. So it's so exciting to see all the colors of the rainbow in Queens when we visit with all these constituencies.
And you talked about some of the musicians early on, but who are your members now? You have some fantastic musicians. Oh, Martin, we'll start with you.
Indeed. I mean, these are highly accomplished musicians. A lot of my musicians also play on Broadway. They play with other professional orchestras. They're busy people, and they make time for the Queen Symphony because it's exciting. We do good programs, and they love getting together. There's a sense of camaraderie in the group that I think it really was fostered in the beginning by David Katz, and that spirit of the group is still alive. So it's not just an ad hoc group of musicians. This really is a pretty tightly knit group that loves working together.
And I'd love for you to talk about this past year, because for so many organizations, it was a challenge. How did you adapt and still continue to connect with audiences? Because I would imagine that right now you're very excited to be back in person. What was this last year like? Martin and then Deborah, I want to hear both your views on this.
You want to go first, Debbie?
Yeah, so definitely it was a challenge, especially in the beginning. It's like, oh my God, now what do we do? And I'm sitting home behind a computer trying to fundraise and do things to keep the organization going. So we started doing some virtual programming. Martin will tell you more about his What Goes Through a Conductor's Head series. And then we just started doing a few little virtual projects here and there, trying to keep people informed with email blasts. And my big hope was that we were going to get back next summer. And when that didn't happen, we just did a couple more virtual programs, staying connected. And now here we are. And people would ask me, well, when can you start? And I said, we're a pretty flexible group. As soon as we get the word that something is open, we will come in and we'll plan a concert and just get going. And that's exactly what's happened. But the year and few months has been terribly challenging, and especially for the musicians as well. Martin can talk more about that.
It's very difficult to keep your spirits high, but we kind of had to. So the digital projects we did with our musicians, they were all just over Zoom. But we decided early on, I really wanted to do something that's light and that elevates people's mood. So that's what we did with our digital projects. I just wanted people to smile, in this really stressful times. And on the side, I was doing my own projects. I was playing orchestral scores on the piano and explaining, what the music was about, which is really cool. Because when I'm with the orchestra, I can't just randomly stop and tell the audience what's going on. That is so exciting at that moment. And then we came back, Jeff, we came back with vengeance.
We really did.
Once we knew, okay, we can do this. We're doing so many performances. We started 2 weeks ago or a little before, and we just have concerts back to back to back. We already have done several outdoors performances. We are gearing up to do our first indoors orchestral shows, and more are to follow. So we really are trying the floodgates have opened, and we're trying to just shower people with all the beautiful music that was bottled up in us for so long.
And I do want to get to that in just a moment. But first, Deborah, can you talk or tell our listeners about your community involvement? Tell me about how many audiences, how many people you reach each year, and about just how integral the Queens Symphony Orchestra is in life in Queens.
It's extremely integral. We have a wonderful series that we're thankful for because of funding from our various councilmen in the borough. And it's something called the Salon Series. And we get to go into smaller venues, small churches, small community centers, senior centers, libraries, schools. And we present small chamber concerts where the community actually can get to the church, they can get to the library, and they can actually talk to the musicians and reach out. And so there's a concert, there's a question and answer period. We have gone into so many different communities in Queens, it's hard for me to even enumerate. And I would say with our parks concerts, especially when we have things like Astoria Park for the 4th of July, we can reach maybe upwards to more than, 30,000 people.
Yeah, they were just amazing crowds for our 4th of July concert.
Yeah. But that's total. That's total.
Yeah.
But we go into the different. Where do we go? We go into Woodhaven. We go into Ozone Park, Hollis, Jamaica. We really are all over, and the people love it. And especially these kids concerts that we do, Symphony 101. We had a small touring group doing Peter and the Wolf, where we have a narrator and we have a small ensemble, and it's terrific for adults, for people who never get a chance to hear these things, to communicate with musicians. It's really, it's amazing.
So let's get to the important stuff, which is what is on the horizon, because you're back in business in person. Martin.
Before Debbie will share with you what's on the horizon, I just have to tell you, we're coming off this wonderful concert. We did something unusual. We crossed the border and we went to perform at St. Anne Church in Brooklyn, which has a phenomenal organ, really a Rolls Royce of organs. And we did Poulenc's organ concerto there, plus some beautiful string music. So we're just coming off of that. And now, Debbie, you take over.
And we have these, as I talked about, we have these smaller salon concerts that we do throughout the community of Queens. So on June 17th, we have something at All Saints Episcopal Church in Woodhaven, and it's going to be a string ensemble with some percussion, and it's going to be called From Baroque to the Beatles. And there'll be a variety of music played by the string quartet from the Baroque period all the way up through the Beatles. And it's a very interesting and entertaining program.
And of course, you mentioned July 4th before. I'm curious, are you planning something for July 4th this year?
No, unfortunately not. Not this year. We're hoping for next year. But then on Wednesday, June 30th, we are really excited because for the last this will be take 4, a night at the opera take 4. we will be presenting our opera concert at Russo's on the Bay, June 30th at 7 p.m.
Howard Beach.
Howard Beach, correct. We bring in two internationally known opera singers. This year it'll be a tenor and a soprano. And they sing some of the most popular and beloved arias and duets and Italian songs. And it is a festival because people love it. And we bring in an awful lot of people. We have to see what the audience capacity will be this year because of the COVID restrictions, but we're really excited to be getting back to doing that.
See, this, Jeff, goes back to, how we try to tailor the repertoire. When we perform at the Flushing Town Hall, we try to tailor it to that community. When we do a concert in Howard Beach, we do all these Italian arias, and our audience there recognizes these works from the first note. So, we start playing and they go, woo, yay. So it's really wonderful to be able to do that.
So, what I'd love to hear from both of you, I'll start with you, Martin. As I get ready to close, I want to ask you both what this moment means to you as we near summer. We're getting back to in-person events. This is a really emotional time for many people. Martin, what does this moment in time mean to you?
Well, it's just the sense of elation when you start performing again for people. We are incomplete without our audience, and I'm grateful for the online opportunities, but there is definitely an element missing. It's a live art form, and that's the magic really happens when we're all together. For me, it's really important that music has a great power to unite us. No matter what side of the street you're from and what your views are on anything, we can all agree on what's so beautiful about this timeless music that we present, both old and contemporary. And so that's my sort of a mission. I want to continue bringing people together through our concerts.
And Deborah?
Well, I have to tell you, besides working in the music business, I'm trained as an opera singer myself, so I'm a musician. And working the last year and a half behind a computer, trying to make plans, trying to raise money is all well and good. But for me, it's about the music. And as soon as we were able to come back, it was like the clouds lifted. It was I was so elated and so excited, even though the first one might have been a small chamber group, just to get out there and perform for the public and see people all of a sudden come to life again was so fulfilling for me and so amazing. And we're kind of almost packing a season into the last 6 weeks, almost a full season, and it has been so much work, but I have been so happy and so just elated. That's the only word it's almost giddy. And it's just been great. And we're so happy to be back together.
It's so affirming. I feel even stronger than before that this what we do has a meaning and offers a real tangible value. And we're just truly blessed that we're able to do this. And we cannot wait to touch base with all our audience that has had to wait for this moment for a long time.
And before I get to my closing question about, where people can go to learn more about Queens Symphony Orchestra, let me just throw one more question out, which is, what have we not discussed? Is there anything else I've not asked that you want to point out to our listeners? I know it could be anything.
I thought your list was pretty extensive. So
right, and pretty comprehensive. I think to emphasize that these concerts are always free to the public.
That's true.
No matter where, no matter when. And that this is a service that we perform to the borough of Queens and hopefully beyond, that we can give people who never, ever might have the chance to hear a classical music concert to come out and hear some beautiful music. And it really, if you look at people's faces, it does transform them.
Yeah.
It does transform them. And
so,
it's amazing.
So Deborah, where can people go? This is very important. Where should people go to learn more about the Queens Symphony Orchestra, to learn the schedule, just to find out more? And given what you mentioned before about fundraising, if they would like to contribute. Oh, don't worry, we always have sound effects. And if they want to contribute,
you should go to www.queenssymphony.org.
Martin, Deborah, thank you so much for appearing here on the It's and Queens podcast.
And
Thank you very much,
It was
Jeff.
wonderful to see you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Now, I'd be remiss if I did not point out that you can also become a member of the Queens Symphony Orchestra. Your membership will help to sustain the Queens Symphony Orchestra for many years to come. Since its founding, the orchestra has been more than just an orchestra. It's been a cultural institution, and there are a number of levels of membership. And they each bring you some benefits like reserved seating or invites to exclusive receptions. So visit queenssymphonyorchestra.org and learn more, and make a point of attending one of their events. Now, if classical is not your cup of tea, then how about some jazz? I work with Flushing Town Hall, and this week they're welcoming back audiences for the first time since March of last year. They will host their first indoor concert, the Queens Jazz Orchestra Ensemble, this Friday, the 18th, and this time in sextet formation. Of course, they're adhering to CDC and New York State health guidelines, so only allowing a small audience, and in-person tickets already are sold out, but they still will live stream this event. The special program will pay tribute to NEA jazz master Jimmy Heath, who passed away on January 19th of last year at the age of 93. And Jimmy Heath passed the baton to his protege, Antonia Hart, to conduct and lead the orchestra in his aftermath. They will perform some music composed by Jimmy Heath as well as jazz standard arrangements. So visit flushingtownhall.org to learn more. If you're looking for something else to do, well, don't worry, because each week, Rob Mackay of the Queens Economic Development Corporation and Queens Tourism Council, which presents this podcast, knows where to go and what to do. And he selects a few events to highlight each week here on the It's in Queens podcast. Here's this week's report.
Hey, Jeff, let's stay outside this weekend. Sound good to you? I think the weather's going to be beautiful. Anyway, we have the Queens Night Market. The big news in my mind is that the Queens Night Market is opening this Saturday, June 19th. They'll open their doors at 4 p.m., but I think they have shifts because of COVID. This is the market out in the New York Hall of Science parking lot that was so good for so many years, but last year it was COVID canceled. Anyway, it's back for the first time, and if you've been there or if you remember, it's incredibly international. I mean, you can get everything from Hungarian goulash to Persian crispy rice to Salvadoran pupusas. Heck, they even have Caribbean shark sandwiches over there. And so I can't wait. I'm really excited. If not this Saturday, next Saturday, or the Saturday after, it'll run all the way through October on Saturday nights. So that's really exciting. Another exciting thing is at the Tribeca Festival, Robert De Niro's own little gig is actually coming to Queens. They're going to show 4 movies in Astoria Park, right by Shore Boulevard at 22nd Drive, on June 19th and June 20th. Outdoors, free, 40-foot state-of-the-art big screen. They're going to show Selma and Just Another Girl on the IRT on the 19th, and Daughters of the Dust and James and the Giant Peach on the 20th. We also have the Smells Like Summer Music Festival at the Forest Park Band Shell on the 19th again. That's noon. There's a whole bunch. This is a mega concert that's gone on. It's rock and roll. It's very rock and roll heavy. Groups like 10 Ton Moho, IROC, Honor Among Thieves, Lay Your Hands on Me, a couple of tribute bands. Teen guitar virtuoso Mario Gonzalez will be there. A bunch of food trucks. It's an all day it's basically noon to 8 in the Forest Park Band Shell on the 19th. And then finally we have Juneteenth. The June 19th is in fact the 19th. And at 12:30, at 4 o'clock in Maple Grove, there will be a special Juneteenth ceremony, which will include the unveiling of a tombstone honoring a particularly inspiring African American woman, along with a taped concert and presentation. That's Maple Grove Cemetery, June 19th at 4 p.m. Jeff, hope you're doing well. Hope to see you outside in Queens. It's Outside in Queens. Bye.
Thanks, Rob. As I get ready to close, I want to wish everyone a happy Father's Day. Yes, it's this coming Sunday. And by the way, that's also the first day of summer. There's always much more to do this time of year. And not just the official events, but more activities in our parks and our playgrounds, the barbecues, the July 4th gatherings. If you're like me, you're looking forward to this light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully it is the end. So, my wish for you is a really safe and happy and healthy summer. Please make a point of discovering all that you can do to have a great one here at home in Queens. If you want an easy way to keep tabs on all that's going on, well, a great starting point is the Queens Tourism Council's It's in Queens website. That website? it'sinqueens.com. You can't forget that. You also can sign up for the Queens Economic Development Corporation's newsletter at queensny.org, and that way you get notified right in your inbox. And I always say this, remember, no matter where you are in Queens, tag us on Twitter, use the hashtag #It'sInQueens, or follow us on Twitter at @It'sInQueens. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and I'll be back next week with another episode of the It's in Queens podcast. And with that, I leave you with another brief taste of the Queens Symphony Orchestra.